5 repository on my
personal project demo. Halo Mythic 3.5 repository on my GitHub account. What exactly is this? Halo Mythic 3.5 edition virtual tabletop role-playing game Roll20 character sheet. That's a mouthful. What the heck does it mean? So, in Roll20, a character sheet is primarily made up of two files, an HTML file and CSS for web page style. The README is visible below, the preview image can be seen on the build, and sheet.json is where the crediting and other Roll20 necessary information is done. I received help from one other person on this project, but other than that, this is my personal project. And I do credit him. I do credit Michael. He did about half the work. It's very good. So Halo Mythic 3.5. It's a game available on his Patreon here. Brandon Miller goes by Vorked, and you can download his rulebook here on this post, or you could visit the community. I worked directly with the community to get feedback to see what does or doesn't work for the character sheet, what they liked, what they disliked, and actively changed it as we proceeded development, similar to the agile style of work development or design. So that was a very helpful way to go about it. Now, there are other aspects of this sheet too. One of them which I would like to go over is the files themselves that make up the sheet, so HTML and CSS. If we go to images first, we see that I have mockups included of what the design initially was, logos to use in the sheet as you'll see soon enough, any other assets included, and scatter macro imagery, which is part of the game's rules. The CSS itself is very busy. We have these specialized switches that we've made. We've organized the CS code into different sections based on what part they apply to, such as multi-purpose classes that are applied in multiple parts of the sheet, or structure for certain elements such as the core tab, equipment tab. It goes about 1,000 lines long or more, almost 1,000 and 100. And the HTML. So the HTML was pretty complex. This is very thorough. It stretches to over 3,000 lines. And we have elements such as rollable templates, which is part of Roll20. And another part of Roll20 I'd like to mention is sheet workers. Now, sheet workers, you see this here, we have on change. We have on change for each get attributes, set attributes, and sort of a nested flow here. This sheet worker, this is part of the Roll20 API, which I had to look up on Roll20's wiki. So they have sheet worker scripts because you can't exactly use JavaScript to just plop your HTML script in there as an HTML element. So instead what we had to do is we had to use their sheet workers, which have their own API, they have their own events and functions that need to be called to work in the Roll20 sheet. You can find all this code yourself in the description of the video. Now that we've got the technical demonstration out of the way, let's get directly into the purpose, what it does and what it's for. If you go to roll20.net, you can make your own game. So here I can start a new game, and if I want to, I could call it Halo 2 to take place in that game's setting or time period. Choose a character sheet. So, because mine is on the actual Roll20 repository, it's listed here, Halo Mythic 3.5. Yep, and you can see I'm there, and my friend is there who helped me make the sheet, and here's the preview image to render. And all this information is displayed. Excellent. So if I wanted to, I could make this game right now. And here is the Roll20 character sheet repository. You can see here that this is basically the same, but it's on Roll20's official sort of sheet collection repository. This main directory full of all other games ever played or made on or with Roll20, which there are a lot. Mine is no exception. So I decide let's go in the game instead. Let's go right in here. Let's load it up and let's play the game. So here we've got characters. Let's make a character. Let's make a character. Though I think I've got one that pre-exists. So we've got Axel. They call him Axel because he's everybody's wheelman. So I've made this sheet, but I just want to show it off. So this is basically how the sheet works. We have this drop down here to choose a faction. So they're Covenant, Forerunner, Banished, and Other. Other is the default, but let's say we are United Nations Space Command. We are a Marine Sergeant, ground vehicle pilot, and our characters have size, weight, or height, or whatnot. You could say average. So specialization, vehicle expert, player name, we write that in there. Upbringing, environment, lifestyle, these aspects change. We have here these characteristics. This is a sort of row made up of buttons, and if we wanted to, we could go through these with tab to change them. We have drop downs for characteristic advancements that your character would get with experience points. We have mythic characteristics, which determine a lot. So let's say I increment strength by 1. It auto-calculates movement and weight capacity. The player doesn't actually have to calculate the game rules formula to find out weight capacity or character movement. That is auto-calculated thanks to the sheet worker scripts that I showed earlier. Here we have initiative. This is a button. Anything in black is a button. We have standard, fast foot, or custom. These different bonuses to apply. Which characteristic modifier to apply? Stat. I'm going to use the word stat. And an infographic. This infographic is helpful because we can fill in information such as wounds, fatigue, luck, points, shields, armors. If I wanted to, could click that and display in chat and show how many wounds I currently have based on a maximum. Alright, so there's different tabs: core, equipment, medical, advancements, journal, and vehicles. Since we started on settings, I'll go over this one first. So different alien species have different bonuses. If I was a Spartan, I would have a different bonus. If I was an elite, I would have a different bonus. Initiative overrides to determine if there is a decimal tiebreaker, whether or not to automatically roll hit locations, which I'm going to roll to not do that. Exclude weapon description, as you can optionally display it anyway. So let's begin with core. So core, here we have skill set, we have our skills generated and all of that. So we have the characteristic or stat mod, whether we're trained in it or if we get a +10 or +20. Then we have our education and languages, all this information to render in the core, because these are core pieces of information for your character. And then here we have different abilities. So for example, here we have this is a display button, but this is a drop down. And with this drop down, we have a sort of placeholder to display what you would write here. And if I don't want to expand these abilities, I can just display in the game's chat what they do. So here we have gather senses, mobile fire, wheelman, slaughter, or manslaughter, equipment. Equipment, here we fill in blocked information such as magnum, pistol, da-da-da-da, base, pierce, and all this game relevant information, and then I can roll to hit, see if my character successfully hits with his magnum. Now, if I click hit, it requests if I have a modifier to input. Normally during play, there are no modifiers. So let's say I don't want that pop-up to happen every time I want to roll to hit. So I click inline mod, turn that off. So now I can just apply a roll. Okay, so unlucky. negative degrees of failure. The game is determined by degrees of success. That's the 100 DOS system degrees of success. Then we can have damage output, and we can choose whether or not to roll for hit locations, which I'll get into later. Caseless SMG, that was successful. Rolled a hit with that. So the red means that I rolled poorly on damage output. Let's try again. Get better damage output. There we go. That's much better. That's a very good roll. Okay. So CR count, this is just for if you want to fill that in. And then gear name, amount, value, and weight. This is all auto-calculated. And it calculates from this too. So range weaponry, and this automatically enters and changes. So if I add that, 4.2 total weight being carried. Amount 2, if I double that, doubles the number because there's 2 1-pound items. Value determines credit value, so 10. I have 2 of these, so 20. So this is a very complex sort of algorithm for handling equipment. And then here we have armor. Armor display, armor, and armor permutations. We have all that information there, including armor descriptions. This is largely optional, and it depends on if your character has permutations or modifications to their armor, such as an up-armored variant helmet. Okay, medical. This is neat, because medical, if you roll, in the game's rules, if you roll hit location, you roll to see where you get hit. So this is actually a button. If we go here, we click hit location. So I determined that my character got hit in the thigh, whether it was with a bullet or another attack. And then we have here thigh. So I would go towards where thigh would be here. I think thigh would be limb, armor, leg. So if I roll, let's say I rolled 41 to 59 on a D100. The location is damaged, so my character has a crippled leg, for example, because he got shot in the thigh or what have you. That's not good. So, but that is automatically calculated because following all this data in the rulebook and rolling for it constantly would be kind of a pain. So, and then you can add a medical description here and add more fields if you have different pieces of information to keep track of. Damaged knee, poor guy. Okay. Advancements. We have here different advancements. So my character is a Marine. That costs 1650 XP. And you can see the page number on where it is. And this actually all adds up, which is very cool. So here we have weapon training, vehicle maintenance, and advancement. And you can write this. So I know you probably read Wheelman or Manslaughter elsewhere. It's because in core you list the abilities and what exactly they do, but abilities and features cost experience points. So this would be a sort of pool of XP to account for, which is all here. So you would actually write the calculation here, and it auto-calculates for you. So let's say Wheelman costs 510. You'll see these change here. And to give yourself more XP, all you really need to do is just edit the total. See? That number changed. It's all calculated. You just have to increment this. That's all. Very easy. And something neat about this faction training is depending on your faction, it will auto-check and de-check other boxes. So Covenant banished. I check Covenant, and now UNSC is unchecked. So let's turn that back to the Marines because we're a Marine. The journal is very fun. With the journal, you can list objectives. So let's see. So let's say, for example, have this, storm the base, and I want another objective. So with this, you can keep a sort of mission history, which is very helpful when playing the game. Journal notes is pretty awesome. You can enter any sort of notes you want here, such as plot details, unresolved mission details, character relationships, etc. You can add any sort of information you want here. Very helpful. Vehicles is also neat because you can put in whatever you like, and if you change the drop-down or category of vehicle, such as if it's a shielded Covenant vehicle, you will actually get shield rating, current, delay, and recharge rate, which are stats related to shields in this game. Vehicle types include ground, air, walkers, and stationary vehicles such as turrets. So air, we get vertical takeoff, target range, and targeting. So my character is a ground pilot, so we'll check that. And this is the sheet. This is the character sheet I had spent so long working on. It was about a month or two of work. It was very fun. Had a lot of fun working on it. And thanks to me and my friend Michael, who helped work on the project with me, in less than 2 months, we got this thing out. We got it onto Roll20. And now everyone in the community thanked us, and they can make and play their own games too. Because the old sheet that was previously up was unusable, and it inspired me, because of how outdated it was, to make a completely new one. So I hope you enjoyed my sort of personal project here, and next time.